Hello everybody, welcome back to BareRose Garage. What we got going on today? Well, as you can see, I'm back on Dart here. And I got a little bit warmer out here in the shop. I think I got it, about up to about 8 degrees out here. Now, I deeply apologize to everybody about the late video. I came out here and I was going to show you how to pull an engine out of a little slant 6 out of one of these early A bodies. Well, I reached up and I hit the camera and everything, and I went to work, turned around and looked, and the camera was blank. It was too cold out here to be filming. We've been getting hit with some brutal temperatures lately. So it wiped out the battery in the camera. I didn't get any of the footage except for me clicking the button. So I'm just gonna have to recap on everything that I've done and show you where I'm at. And more of those little oddities that you've seen from the other video. Now, also, I just got dumped with a whole bunch of comments. I'm sorry I'm late on my comments, but I am reading them all. And one of the key ones that I got to mention, I forget the guy's name. You got a name that's hard for me to pronounce, and it's hard. But you made a comment on there that was crucial, and I'm paying attention. You said, well, if that engine is cockeyed like that, wouldn't it put the fan, one side of the fan, against the radiator? You know, I didn't think about that. I already had the radiator out and everything, so I came out here and I decided to check that. Now, when I looked at the radiator, I thought, oh, they must have offset the radiator. Here we go. It's actually the same measurement from here to here to here to here. And you look here, that's my rat rod tape measure there. It's the same. Okay, so that's parallel. What's going on? And like I said, I'm paying attention to my comments, and I appreciate your comment there. So I came up here and looked up here. And again, whatever your name was, and I'm going to highlight you on that, thanks for that, because I went even deeper. Again, because I don't know Mopar. So how could that be? I remember that fan was parallel with it. I thought, oh crap, did I screw up somewhere? Nope, I found it. Right here, looking at this core support that's all part of the body because it's a unibody, I measured from here to here. Again, my rat rod tape measure, but it's that much. Then I measured over here. Holy cow. That core support is actually in there offset, crooked, to compensate for the fan. So it's all nice and parallel and even with the radiator. So you don't have the fan taking out chunky radiator. How'd they get around it? They moved that core support and it's in there crooked. It's hard to see with the naked eye. When I looked at it, it looked straight because everything's in line with each other. But because of that comment, I gotta thank you again. You're a great guy. I came out here and I measured that. Sure enough, the whole core support's in there crooked too to match it up, to keep everything parallel while being crooked like that. And all you other guys that made the comments, you're spot on. This is the last year that they did this. The next year's up, 66, 67, on through. They widened that K-frame, I guess. You know, like I said, I don't know these. I'm just telling you from the comments from my last video. They actually opened up the K-frame a little bit to make a little more room. And what they did is they shifted the motor, transmission, all the way to the rear end. They shifted it over to that side. Now they didn't have to go 3.5 inches. That measurement is exaggerated because from the motor mounts all the way to the tail shaft of the transmission, you know, that's a long ways. It doesn't take much to make the measurement on the tail shaft to the frame a lot. All they had to do is move that engine over an inch, 2 inches, maybe. I don't know how much they moved it over, but that's what they did. They just moved it over a little bit and then cut the tunnel to that side all the way down to the rear end. They straightened that out. So they actually did correct that wacko engine placement that you're seeing in here in 66 on up. This is only the, I guess what you guys would call early A-body quirks. The other quirks are they shifted everything in line over to the passenger side a little bit to get around that K-frame. And my stove cut. Let's take a deep dive in on the rest of the weird things that I found. Now, I have messed with these a bit. You know, like I said, I've worked on them before, but I have never deep dove into the meat and potatoes of an old early Chrysler Mopar. The first thing I noticed, watching all of your other videos and lives and stuff where I hear Mopar guys talking, a lot of you guys, the first thing you do is you go out and you look for a manual power steering box. I always wondered why. Why would you go back to a manual, especially on a Mopar? You know, that was kind of Mopar's thing. You had the easy one finger power steering in a classic Mopar. They steer very easy. It's comfortable as you're driving them. They're just real easy to turn. I get it. When you look down inside of here now that I got this all opened, look at the size of that power steering box. That sucker's huge. And from what I can tell, you know, my brain clicked. Okay, why is it so big? Those power steering boxes have a lot of power in them. It's what gave Chrysler their easy power steering. So they are massive, they're powerful, they're able to do and deliver on that. Now this is a 65. This has modern caster. Modern caster is your degree on how far your spindles lay forward and backwards. I'll get into that on another video because that is extremely important. But there's two types. There's a manual setting, which is a shallow caster. Now they make them shallow because it makes it easier to steer your car. Or they have the modern caster, which lays the spindle back a little farther. Now, the farther you lay back on your caster, the more your tires, wherever you're turning to, want to come back straight. So it makes the car easier to handle. Also, the deeper you go with it, this gets into road course racing and stuff, sports car racing. A lot of those cars will have heavy caster because it throws it has to do with weight shift. It's how you get the weight from that rear of the car to shift over to the opposite side on the front end, to this side of the car. Throwing all your traction to this front tire as you're going into a corner. You adjust your caster way down, well, not way down, a couple of degrees means everything when you're chassis building. This is all stuff to do with that. But it's how you get the weight transfer into your front end. Also on your rear end too. It's how you lift one tire up to shove everything down onto that front tire and get it to hug into a corner. Obviously there's a bunch more to that, but the drawback to steep caster angles makes them hard to steer. So you have to have power steering or George Armstrong muscle arms to turn the car, or big steering wheels. Yep, that's why they used to use big steering wheels on the old cars. It was kind of their way of adding power steering, because the bigger the steering wheel is, the easier it is to turn. And everything was manual back then with shallow caster. Now the drawback of a shallow caster though is the faster you go, the more wheel wobble you'll get, and in extreme cases you can go into what's called the death wobble. That's when your front tires are out there steering by themselves, and yeah, well, car goes into a wiggle woggle and the faster you're going, and then you stop, and then it shifts the weight, and bad things happen. So the steeper your caster angle, or as they call it now, modern caster, the better off you are, because your front tires are always trying to keep the car straight. Okay, boy, that was a long drug out, but like I said, there is so much more that goes into that, and if you're into chassis building, study it. It is crucial. Front end steering geometry, blow your mind. Anyway, skip to that and go right into this. Or if you're confused on it and you want to ensure that it's right, take it to an alignment shop. That's what those guys specialize in, and they can adjust it to however you want to do it. But make sure it's an alignment shop, not a tire shop. Tire shops will just put everything back stock. You got to take it to a shop that specializes in alignments. Around here we have a place called Bybie's. They've been in business since the beginning of time. So, and I think they were doing alignments on horse and buggies. Anyway, they specialize in that, and they can set up any steering system, any chassis system, to get you in the sweet spot of all of that. Look around to your local places. They're hard to find because they're kind of a dying breed, but if you can find one, like I said, they're kind of like the machine shops of the chassis building profession. Those guys know what they're doing, and they know how to apply it to whatever you're trying to get. Anyway, skip to the end, and let's come back over here. More of the freaky oddities that I found in this car. As you can see, the steering box is huge. Why is that? Well, it has to do with one of my first videos through all of this, the engine placement. This car's got a ton of weight on the front tires, so they used that big power steering box to help you steer the car and maintain their very reputable one-finger Chrysler power steering in this car. Problem is, it's huge. It's a monster. And it takes up a tremendous amount of room right there. So I get it. I know why you guys put the manuals in it now. It's to tighten that up, and it's for saving space. Because over here, you got headers going through here, or exhaust, or whatever. And as this is, I don't think I can put a V8 in here, because it just takes up too much room right there to get around everything. I would have spark plugs coming out right in here. Like I said, it's just too big. Now, the other thing that I noticed too, and I think you'll be able to pick it up on camera right here. Look at the angle, it's right there. You see that? Now, when we went and got this car, I think you've seen the pictures of it from that lady's yard, because it was at a yard sale. When I went over there to pick it up with cousin Mike, and he winched me up onto the trailer, I jumped into the into the driver's seat. The seats weren't bolted in, so I didn't think too much about it. Now, when you look in the car, the steering wheel is, God, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. The steering wheel is all busted up. The horn button was kind of hanging out. I could tell that the kid that had this car was probably trying to pull the steering wheel without a steering wheel puller. I've come across that many a times, and like I said, it is one of my biggest pet peeves. As you can see behind me, I kind of have a collection of classic steering wheels. I love them. One of the biggest things for me when you're getting into one of these old classic cars is when you put your hands on the steering wheel, it sucks you right back into time. I put my hands on this steering wheel, I go right back to 1965. It's the feel of the car. When I like to feel my cars. I'm kind of weird that way, I know, but that's why I love a manual transmission and a manual choke and a stock steering wheel. I want to feel what it was like back in '65 when I get into a car. I like to feel the vibration. I like to feel the way that it was back then. And I get into touch and in tune with my cars that way. Yeah, I know it's kind of that Zen weird stuff, but it's just the way I am. Anyway, so I love the stock steering wheels. As you can see, I got plenty of them around here, and I got more of them I got to put up. I noticed that again, because everybody does it, they grab a hold of that steering wheel and they jerk on it and they pry on it and they're trying to get it off. Just go out and buy the $10 steering wheel puller, screw it on there, it comes right off super easy, and you don't screw it up. And then you can sell it at a swap meet to somebody like me that's going to pay you probably more than what it's worth, just so I can hang it up on the wall because I like them. Anyway, back to it. Not only that, if I had the steering wheel, it gives me an excuse to buy the car later, right? Anyway, so I sat in the seat. The seat wasn't bolted down. Steering wheel was off. As I sat into it, I noticed the steering wheel was crooked. Didn't think much about it because the seat wasn't in, so I thought, maybe it was that, or maybe it was the kid that bent the steering wheel, like I've come across that so many times, trying to pull it. We got it up on the trailer and we got it home here. Now I'm looking at it. That steering wheel isn't crooked. That steering wheel is supposed to be crooked in the car. Again, you see the angle right there. Another drawback of the K-member. That's why when you sit into one of these early Mopars, the steering wheel is actually crooked from the dash. Just like the radiator and the fan up there, when you move the angle there, it exaggerates it all the way up to the steering wheel. And you feel it. You actually, like I said, it felt like a bent steering wheel. Something was wrong up there, or the seat was kittywampus in there. No, it's the way it is. And it goes all the way back to that K-member and that way oversized power steering box. Now I got to figure out how to get that out of there and how to change it in order to get something else in there. And that's going to be fun. But stay tuned and we're going to find out how I'm going to get around this and still have some good old fun with this car, as long as I can keep that metal hot. We'll catch you on the next one.